Hi, strawberries. Welcome back to the Strawberry Patch. Tonight, we're going to slow down, get cozy, and read a few pages together. Tonight, we're going to be reading The Secret Garden, Chapter 9, The Strangest House Anyone Ever Lived In. It was the sweetest, most mysterious looking place anyone could imagine. The high walls which shut it in were covered with leafless stems of climbing roses, which were so thick that they were matted together. Mary Lennox knew they were roses because she had seen a great many roses in India. All the ground was covered with the grass of a wintry brown, and out of it grew clumps of bushes, which were surely rose bushes, if they were alive. There were numbers of standard roses which had so spread their branches that they were like little trees. There were other trees in the garden, and one of the things which made the place look strangest and loveliest was the climbing roses had run all over them and swung down long tendrils which made light swinging curtains, and here and there they had caught at each other or at a far-reaching branch and had crept from one tree to another and made lovely bridges of themselves. There were neither leaves nor roses on them now, and Mary did not know whether they were dead or alive, but their thin gray or brown branches and sprays looked like a sort of hazy mantle spreading over everything, walls and trees, and even brown grass, where they had fallen from their fastenings and run along the ground. It was a hazy tangle from tree to tree which made it all look so mysterious. Mary had thought it must be different from other gardens which has not been left all by themselves for so long. But indeed it was different from any place she had ever seen in her life. "How still is it?" she whispered. "How still." Then she waited a moment and listened at the stillness. The robin, who had flown to his tea trap, was still as all the rest. He did not even flutter his wings. He sat without stirring and looked at Mary. "No wonder it is still," she whispered again. "I am the first person who has spoken in here for 10 years." She moved away from the door, stepping as softly as if she were afraid of awakening someone. She was glad that there was a grass under her feet and that her steps made no sound. She walked under one of the fairy-like great arches between the trees and looked up at the sprays and tendrils which formed them. "I wonder if they are all quite dead," she said. "Is it all quite dead, garden? I wish it wasn't." If she had been Ben Weatherstaff, she could have told whether the wood was alive by looking at it. But she could only see that they were only gray or brown sprays and branches, and none showed any signs or even a tiny leaf bud anywhere. But she was inside this wonderful garden, and she could come through the door under the ivy at any time, and she felt as if she had found a world of her own. The sun was shining inside the four walls, and the high arch of the blue sky over the particular piece of Mr. Waite seemed even more brilliant and soft than it was over the moor. The robin flew down his tea trap and hopped about or flew after her from one bush to another. He chirped a good deal and had a very busy air, as if he was showing her things. Everything was strange and silent, and she seemed to be hundreds of miles away from one another. But somehow she did not feel lonely at all. All that troubled her was her wish that she knew whether all the roses were dead, or if perhaps some of them had lived and might put out leaves and buds as the weather got warmer. She did not want to be a quiet dead garden. If it was a quite alive garden, how wonderful it would be, and what thousands of roses would grow on every side. Her skipping rope has hung over her arm when she came in, and she had walked about for a while. She thought she would skip around the whole garden, stopping when she wanted to look at things. There seemed to have been grass paths here and there, and in one corner or two corners there were alcoves of evergreen with stone seats or tall moss-covered flower urns in them. As she came near the second of the alcoves, she stopped skipping. There had once been a flower bed in it, and she thought she saw something sticking out of the black earth, some sharp little pale green points. She remembered what Ben Weatherstaff had said, and she knelt down to look at them. Yes, there are tiny growing things, and they might be corncrosses or snowdrops or daffodils, she whispered. She bent very close to them and sniffed the fresh scent of the damp earth. She liked it very much. Perhaps there were some other ones coming up in other places, she said. I will go all over the garden and look. She did not skip or walked. She went slowly and kept her eyes on the ground. She looked in the old border beds and amongst the grass, and after she had gone round trying to miss nothing, she had found ever so more sharp pale green points, and she had been quite excited again. It isn't quite dead garden, she cried out softly to herself. Even if the roses are dead, there are other things alive. She did not know anything about gardening, but the grass seemed so thick in some of the places where the green plants were, pushing their way through that she had thought they did not seem to have room enough to grow. She searched about until she found a rather sharp piece of wood and knelt down and dug and weeded out the weeds and grass until she made a nice little clear places around them. Now, they look as if they can breathe, she said. After she has finished with the first one, I'm going to do ever so many more. I'll do all I can see. If I hadn't had time today, I can come tomorrow. She went from place to place and dug and weeded and enjoyed herself so immensely as she was led on from bed to bed into the grass under the trees. The exercise made her so warm that she first threw her coat off, then her hat, and without knowing it, she was smiling down on the grass and the pale green points all the time. The robin was tremendously busy. He was very much pleased to see gardening begun on his own estate. He had often wondered at Ben Witherspoon, where gardening is done, all sorts of delightful things to eat are turned up in the soil. Now, here there was a new kind of creature who was not half a Ben's size and yet had the sense to come into his garden and begin at once. Mistress Mary worked in the garden until it was time to go to her midday dinner. In fact, she was rather late in remembering, and when she put on her coat and hat, she picked up her skipping rope, and she could not believe that she had been working 2 or 3 hours. She had been actually happy all the time, and dozens of tiny pale green points were to be seen in clear places, looking twice as cheerful as they had looked before the grass and the weeds had been smothering them. I should come back in the afternoon, she said, looking all round at her new kingdom, and speaking to the trees and rose bushes as if they heard her. Then she ran lightly across the grass, pushed open the slow oar door, and slipped through it under the ivy. She had such red cheeks and such bright eyes, and ate such a dinner that Martha was delighted. 2 pieces of meat and 2 helps of rice pudding, she said. Mother would be pleased when I tell her that skipping rope's done for thee. In the course of her digging with her pointed stick, Mrs. Mary had found herself digging up a sort of white root, rather like an onion. She had put it back in its place and patted the earth carefully down on it, and just now she wondered if Martha could tell her what it was. Martha, she said, what are those white roots that look like onions? They're bulbs, answered Martha. Lots of spring flowers grow on them. The very little ones are snowdrops and crocuses, and the big ones are narcissuses and jonquils and daffodillies. The biggest one of all is lilies and purple flags. They are nice. Dickens got a whole lot of 'em planted in our bit of garden. Does Dickens know all about them? Asked Mary, a new idea taking possession of her. Our Dickens can make the flower grow out of a brick wall. Mother said he just whispered things out the ground. Do bulbs live a long time? Would they live years and years if no one helped them? Inquired Mary anxiously. They're things as help themselves, said Martha. That's why poor folk can afford to have 'em. If you don't trouble them, most of 'em will work away underground for a lifetime. Or spread out and have little aunts. There's a place in the park woods here where there's snowdrops by thousands. They're the prettiest sight in Yorkshire when the spring comes. No one knows where they were first planted. I wish the spring was here now, said Mary. I want to see all the things that grow in England. She had finished her dinner and had gone to her favorite seat on the hearthrug. I wish I had a little spade, she said. Whatever does that one spade for? Asked Martha, laughing. Are that going to take to digging? I must tell mother that too. Mary looked at the fire and pondered a little. She must be careful if she was meant to keep her secret garden. She wasn't doing any harm, but if Mr. Craven found out about the open door, he would be fearfully angry and get a new key and lock it up forevermore. She really could not bear that. This is such a big, lonely place, she said slowly, as if she was turning matters over in her mind. The house is lonely, and the park is lonely, and the gardens are lonely. So many places seem shut up. I never did many things in India, but there were more people to look at, natives and soldiers marching by, and sometimes bands playing. And my ayah will tell me stories. There is no one to talk to here, except you and Ben Weatherstaff, and you have your work to do, and Ben Weatherstaff won't speak to me often. I thought if I had a little spade, I can dig somewhere as he does, and I might make a little garden, if he would give me some seeds. Martha's face quite lightened up. There now, she exclaimed. If that wasn't one of the things Mother said, she says there's such a lot of room in that big place. Why don't they give her a little bit for herself, even if she doesn't plant nothing but parsley and radishes? She'll dig and rake and be right down happy over it. Them was the very words she said. Were they? Said Mary. How many things she knows, doesn't she? Eh? Said Martha. It's like she says, a woman as brings up 12 children learns something besides her ABC. Children as good as remember it to say you're finding out things. How much would a spade cost? A little one, Mary asked. Well, was Mary's reflective answer. At the Wait Village, there's a shop or so, and I saw a little garden set with a spade and a rake and a fork all tied together for 2 shillings. And they were stout enough to work with, too. I have got more than that in my purse, said Mary. Mrs. Morrison gave me 5 shillings, and Mrs. Medlock gave me some money from Mr. Craven. Did he remember thee much? Exclaimed Martha. Mrs. Medlock said I have to have a shilling a week to spend. She gives me one every Saturday. I didn't know what to spend it on. My word, that's riches, said Martha. That can buy anything in that world want. The rest of our cards is only a three apiece, and it's like plucking an eye to get it. Now I just thought of something, putting her hands on her hip. What? Said Mary eagerly. In the shop at the Wait, they sell packages of flower seeds for a penny each. And our Dixon's, he knows which one's the prettiest ones and how to make 'em grow. He walks over to the Wait many a day just for the fun of it. Does I know how to print letters? Suddenly. I know how to write, Mary answered. Mary shook her head. Our Dixon can only read printing. If I can print, we could write a letter to him and ask him to go and buy the garden tools and seeds at the time. Oh, you're a good girl, Mary cried. You are really. I didn't know you were so nice. I know. I can print letters if I try. Let's ask Mrs. Medlock for a pen, ink, and some paper. I've got some of my own, said Martha. I brought 'em so I can print a bit of a letter to my mother on a Sunday. I'll go and get it. She ran out the house, and Mary stood by the fire and twisted her little thin hands together with sheer pleasure. If I had a spade, she whispered, I could make the earth nice and soft and dig up weeds. If I have seeds, I can make flowers grow in the garden and won't be dead at all. It will come alive. She did not go out again that afternoon because when Martha returned with her pen and ink and paper, she was obliged to clear the table and carry the plates and dishes downstairs. And when she got into the kitchen, Mrs. Medlock was there and told her to do something. So Mary waited to her a long time before she came back. And then it was a serious piece of work to write to Dixon. Mary had been taught very little because her governess had disliked her so much to stay with her. She could not spell particularly well, but she found that she could print letters when she tried. This was the letter Mary dictated to her. My dear Dickon, this comes hoping to find you well as it leaves me at present. Miss Mary has plenty of money and will go to Thwaite and buy her some flower seeds and set of garden tools and make a flower bed. Pick the prettiest ones, easy to grow because she has never done it before and lived in India, which is different. Give my love to mother and every one of you. Miss Mary is going to tell me a lot more so that on my next day out, you can hear about elephants and camels and gentlemen going hunts and lions and tigers. Your loving sister, Martha Phoebe Sobry. We'll put the money in the envelope and I'll get the bishop boy to take it in his cart. He's a great friend of Dickens, said Martha. How shall I get the things when Dickon buys them? He'll bring them to him himself. He likes to walk over this way. Oh, exclaimed Mary. Then I shall see him. I never thought I should see Dickon. Doesn't I want to see him? Asked Martha suddenly, for Martha had looked so pleased. Yes, I do. I never saw a boy foxes and crows love. I want to see him very much. Mary gave a little start, and if she remembered something, not to think, she broke out. To think of me forgetting that there. I thought I was going to tell you first thing this morning. I asked Mother, and she said she'll ask Mrs. Medlock her own self. Do you mean? Mary began. What I said Tuesday. Ask her if you might be driven to our cottage some day and have a bit of Mother's hot oat cake, a butter, and a glass of milk. It seemed as if it was all interesting things were happening in one day. To think of going over the moor in the daylight and when the sky was blue. To think of going into the cottage would help 12 children. Does she think Mrs. Medlock will let me go? She asked quite anxiously. Aye, she thinks she would. She knows what a tidy woman is and how clean she keeps the cottage. If I went, I should see your mother as well, Miss Dixon, said Mary, thinking it over and liking the idea very much. She doesn't seem to be like mothers in India. Her work in the garden and the excitement of the afternoon ended up making her feel quiet and thoughtful. Martha stayed with her until tea time, but they sat in comfortable quiet and talked very little. But just before Martha went downstairs for the tea tray, Mary asked a question. Martha, she said, has the scully maid had a toothache again today? Martha suddenly started slightly. What makes thee ask that? She said. Because when I waited so long for you to come back, I opened the door and walked down the corridor to see if you were coming. And I heard that far off crying again, just as we heard it the other night. There isn't no wind today, so you can see it wouldn't have been the wind. Eh, said Martha Wesley, thou mustest go walking about the corridor and listening. Mr. Craven would be that they're angry there's not no knowing he'll do. I wasn't listening, said Martha. I was just waiting for you, and I heard it. That's 3 times. My word. There's Mrs. Medlock's bell, said Martha, and she almost ran out of the room. It's the strangest house anyone has ever lived in, said Mary drowsily as she dropped her head on the cushioned seat of the armchair near her. Fresh air and digging and skipping rope had made her feel so comfortably tired that she fell asleep. Thank you for spending a little time with me in the strawberry patch. I hope this story brought you a little peace. Sleep well, strawberries, and I see you in the next chapter.